So, of course, that promise of job centers, we will take the minister on and follow up on that. Very interesting. We know that's what happens in the Western world, but I mean, hardly do we see such in Nigeria, perhaps because we do not have a lot of employment or job openings available for Nigerians. But we'll follow up with the minister on that. Now, last year, British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Richard Montgomery, said that Nigeria has the world's largest electricity deficit that affects about 90 million of the population. Now, on Friday, President Bola Tinubu officially approved the Electricity Act bill of 2024, making it law. According to a statement by Mr. Ajurin Galale, the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, the bill aims to tackle, if we could have the highlights of that bill, what it hopes to tackle: developmental and environmental issues faced by communities, hosting power generation facilities, and also there you have it. So these are some major focus for that bill, to tackle developmental and environmental issues in host communities. And then 5% of total annual operating expenses of the GenCos will be used to develop host communities. And the idea is to have a neutral fund manager, to handle this. So what we're asking is, if this indeed is going to translate to more supply for electricity, because that's the language that Nigerians understand. But anyways, let's have this conversation with the chairman of West Power and Gas, Mr. George Etomi, joins us virtually from Lagos. Mr. Etomi, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Etomi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Good morning.
Okay, yeah, I can hear you now. So, I mean, before we even delve into this, it's a sad time for Nigerians, especially the business community. Two great persons that have made a lot of impact passed away on Friday night in the United States. And I know you're close to at least one of them. So, I mean, getting through this is a difficult time indeed.
It's a tough one, I must say. In fact, I was close to both of them. Herbert Wigwe and I were in the G7 group that was advising River State government on investments and co. And then Mr. Bimbola Ogunbanjo was just literally my brother, because I worked for Chief Ogunbanjo, the only job I ever had. And only about 8 weeks ago, we buried the old man on what would have been his 100th birthday. And Bimbo and I were part of the planning group that made sure we gave the old man a befitting burial. He was a colossus. Both of them were colossuses in their various areas, capital markets, and they will never fade in our memory. It's so sad. Herbert was only 57. Bimbola was only 61. They had so much spunk in them. They had accomplished a lot, but they still had so much more to do. And I can only ask that their souls rest in peace, and that the rest of us should not drop the ball, but continue with the legacies they've richly left behind.
Yeah, may their soul rest in peace indeed. Thank you for that, Mr. Etomi. I will join you in that prayers here from Channels Television. But let's look at the electricity reform now. I did not get a lot of excitement, around the signing into law on Friday by the president, but you were a stakeholder, major stakeholder in the electricity sector. With this bill now, even though we see that it's mostly talking about the hosts, communities, what does this change when it comes to supply, bottom line? Because that's what Nigerians want to know.
Yeah, but I get the point you're making. It does not have what I would call a direct impact on supply. The bill is simply an amendment of the act, the major act itself, to allow for host community, to accommodate the host community, because many of these GenCos, they generate electricity with huge turbines. Some of them pose risks to the environment, and in many cases, the operations are so humongous. The feeling is that if the communities they serve do not see any benefit, it could be a problem, similar to what you have in the oil and gas sector. So this is simply in a manner of speaking, simply legislating what would have ordinarily been corporate social responsibility of the GenCos. But indirectly, it could have an impact in the sense that once the host communities feel that they are catered for, then they will have a strong urge to protect the facilities there. In the past, we used to have flashpoints between host communities and the generating companies. And from time to time, you have disruptions in the activities. But hopefully, this will eliminate it by allowing a certain proportion, as I said, the actual 5% of the actual operating expenses being set aside to be managed by trustees. I mean, there will be issues with regard to the fine details when the time comes. But the spirit behind it is that the government wants a harmonious environment for GenCos to do their business and for host communities to also feel that these businesses have a positive impact on their lives. It could come through the form of jobs, it could come through the form of actual development of the area. And so many of the things, like I said, were left in the remit of corporate social responsibility is now mandated by law to happen. So to that extent, yes, it will make an impact. But as to the wider issue of the impact on electricity flow, those are still the familiar issues of shortage of gas, how you deal with that, how you deal with the debt issue to gas suppliers, how you ensure that gas which is produced in Nigeria is no longer priced in dollars, so that the practicality of making it available for GenCos is actually achieved. Those are the bottlenecks. And once you unlock that huge gas potential to power, I can tell you we'll be well on the way to ensure that the electricity industry is stable.
Do we see a change in, for instance, looking at the area of gas supply? We're expecting Dangote to start anytime from now. We are also expecting the Port Harcourt refinery. And I know, we should be able to get gas from this. Does this give a renewed hope in the area of electricity supply through this, the operations of these factories?
Incidentally, sadly, the answer is no, because they are running on very parallel tracks. Those refineries are not producing gas. Gas is actually being produced in the gas fields. Most of the gas fields have been concessioned by the federal government. A lot is being exported by way of LNG. There's very little gas to power infrastructure in Nigeria. There are pricing issues. So a lot of these things have to be dealt with at policy levels. And I'm aware that this government is beginning to tackle it. We've carried the issue for quite a while, but now we must begin to answer those big questions. Why do we have so much gas in Nigeria, and yet the gas to power infrastructure is so weak, almost non-existent? Why is gas priced in dollars when we need it for domestic use, and it belongs to us? 60% of most of these joint ventures have NNPC participation. And why are gas producers not being paid? A lot of the subsidy you hear about in the electricity sector is actually to subsidize, is actually to pay for debts owed to the gas producers. So those are fundamental issues. And once they're dealt with, and I believe they will be dealt with in the course of this administration going head on to deal with the problem, we'll begin to see discernible changes in the electricity market.
Right, Mr. George Etomi, thank you so much for your time this morning. Chairman, West Gas and Power and Gas, thank you for your thoughts.
My pleasure.